Hello viewers, welcome to Biota.Bangladesh channel. In this channel, you will get the latest videos on ELT, TESOL, English literature, linguistics and IELTS delivered by renowned university professors of ELT and linguistics. This is M.E. Lord, Head of Linguistics, Biota Bangladesh with my ELT lecture video 1. As a part of MA in ELT program, I will deliver this lecture on the course of Theories of Second Language Learning and Acquisition. And in this module, I am going to talk about Stelphen Krashen's theory of acquisition and learning a second language and his learning hypothesis. Introduction. Stelphen Krashen, a linguist and educational researcher, is a professor emeritus at the University of Southern California who moved from the linguistics department to the faculty of the School of Education in 1994. Krashen is an expert in the field of linguistics, specializing in theories of language acquisition and development. Much of his recent research has involved the study of non-English and bilingual language acquisition. Since 1980, he has published well over 100 books and articles and has been invited to deliver over 300 lectures at universities throughout the United States and Canada. Historical background. Stelphen Krashen proposed the monitor model as his theory of second language acquisition in his influential text Principles and Practice in Second Language Acquisition in 1982. Krashen, along with Terrell, 1983, established that students learning a second language move through 5 predictable stages. It is based on Krashen's theory of language acquisition, which assumes that speech emerges in the following 5 stages. Number 1, production stage or listening and gesture. Number 2, early production stage or short phrase or expression. Stage 3, speech emerges or long phrases and sentences. 4, intermediate fluency or general conversation, and number 5, advanced fluency or skillful communication and interaction on various practical situations. This is a brief description of Krashen's widely known and well accepted theory of second language acquisition, which has had a large impact in all areas of second language teaching, learning and research. Key concepts of hypothesis. Krashen's theory of second language acquisition and learning is known as monitor model, which posits 6 hypotheses about second language acquisition and learning. Number 1, the acquisition learning hypothesis. Number 2, the monitor hypothesis. Number 3, the natural order hypothesis. Number 4, input hypothesis, and the number 5, effective filter hypothesis. Besides the above 5 hypotheses, Krashen has put forward another hypothesis in 2003, what he calls number 6, the comprehension hypothesis. You can remember 6 hypotheses by the mnemonic acronym AMNIAC, A-M-N-I-A-C. The acquisition learning hypothesis. The acquisition learning hypothesis is the most fundamental of the 5 hypotheses in Krashen's theory and the most widely known among linguists. and language learners and teachers that draw a sharp distinguish between acquisition and learning. According to Krashen, there are two independent ways or systems in which human beings develop their linguistic skills and performance. Number one, the acquired system, and number two, the learned system. The acquired system or acquisition is the product of a subconscious process very similar to the process children undergo when they acquire their first language. It requires meaningful interaction in the target language, natural communication in which speakers are concentrated not in the form of their utterance but in the communicative act. The learned system or learning is the product of formal instruction, and it comprises a conscious process which results in conscious knowledge about the language, for example, knowledge of grammar rules. A deductive approach in a teacher-centered setting produces learning, while an inductive approach in a student-centered setting leads to acquisition. Learning demands for accuracy rather than fluency. On the other hand, acquisition claims for fluency rather than accuracy. According to Krashen, learning is less important than acquisition. The monitor hypothesis. The monitor hypothesis asserts that a learned system acts as the monitor to what they are producing. In other words, while the acquisition system is able to produce spontaneous speech, the learned system is used to check what is being spoken. The monitor hypothesis explains the relationship between acquisition and learning and defines the influence of the latter on the former. The monitoring function is the practical result of the learner's learned grammar. According to Krashen, the acquisition system is the utterance initiator, while the learning system performs the role of the monitor or the editor. The monitor acts in a planning, editing, and correcting function when the following three specific conditions are met. Number one, the second language learner has sufficient time at their disposal. Number two, they focus on form or think about correctness. Number three, they know the rule. It appears that the role of conscious learning is somewhat limited in second language performance. According to Krashen, the role of the monitor is minor and it is used only to correct deviation from formal speech and to give speech a more polished appearance. Krashen also suggests that there is individual variation among language learners with regard to monitor use. He distinguishes those learners into three categories as: number one, the that use the monitor all the time are overuser. Number two, those learners who have not learned or who prefer not to use their conscious knowledge are underuser. And those learners that use the monitor appropriately are optimal users. An eventual of the person's psychological profile can help the determine to what group they belong. Usually introverts are underuser while extroverts are and perfections are overuser. Lack of self-confidence is frequently related to the overuser of the monitor. The natural order hypothesis. The natural order hypothesis is based on research findings which suggest that the acquisition of grammatical structures follows a natural order which is predictable. For a given language, some grammatical structures tend to be acquired early while others late. This order seemed to be independent of the learner's age, first language, background, conditions of exposure, and although the agreement between individual acquirers was not always 100% in the studies, and there were statistically significant similarities that reinforced the existence of a natural order of language acquisition. The input hypothesis. The input hypothesis is Krashen's attempt to explain how the learner acquires a second language and how second language acquisition takes place. The input hypothesis is only concerned with acquisition, not learning. According to this hypothesis, the learner improves and progresses along the natural order when he/she receives second language input that is one step beyond his or her current stage of linguistic competence. For example, if a learner is at stage I, then acquisition takes place when he or she is exposed to comprehensible input that belongs to level I+1. Since not all of the learners can be at the same level of linguistic competence at the same time, Krashen suggests that natural communicative input is the key to designing a syllabus, ensuring in this way that each learner will receive some I+1 input that is appropriate for his or her current stage of linguistic competence. The effective filter hypothesis. The effective filter hypothesis embodies Krashen's view that a number of affective variables play a facilitative but non-causal role in second language acquisition. These variables include motivation, self-confidence, anxiety, and personality trait. Krashen claims that learners with high motivation, self-confidence, a good self-image, a low level of anxiety, and extroversion are better equipped for success in second language acquisition. On the other hand, low motivation, low self-esteem, anxiety, introversion, and inhibition can be affective filter and form a mental block that prevents comprehensible input from being used for acquisition. In other words, when the filter is up, it impairs language acquisition, and positive affect is necessary for acquisition to take place. Finally, the comprehension hypothesis. The comprehension hypothesis, which involves some possible pedagogical application of language learning. Comprehension hypothesis is considered to be the core of current language acquisition theory. The comprehension hypothesis states that we acquire language when we understand messages, when we understand that what other people are telling, and when we understand what we read. The comprehension hypothesis also applies to literacy, our reading ability, our ability to write in an acceptable writing style, our spelling ability, vocabulary knowledge, and our ability to handle complex syntax in the result of reading. Until a few years ago, Krashen referred to his hypothesis as a part of the input hypothesis. He has come to introduce comprehension hypothesis as an individual learning and teaching method based on reading passages, stories, articles, as well as other discourses in target language. Trends and limitations. Despite the influence in the field of second language acquisition, Krashen's hypotheses have not been without criticism, as evidenced by the critiques offered by other linguists and educators in the field. Each of Krashen's hypotheses is marked by serious flaws: ill-defined terms, unavoidable constructs, unmotivated issues, lack of empirical content, and thus of falsifiability, lack of explanatory power, etc. McLaughlin claims that the concept of learner's level is extremely difficult to define, just as the idea of I+1, and it is very difficult to determine the learner's current level due to individual differences. Gass and Seliker 1994 argue that it is very difficult to perceive how acquisition and learning housed in two separate linguistic systems could be put into use by second language learners. Conclusion: Stephen Krashen's monitor model might be the most cited theory, issue, and question for acquisition and learning a second language. He believes that we all acquire language in the same way. He explains language acquisition is subconscious and results from informal and natural communication. On the other hand, language learning is conscious and driven by error correction, and grammar structures are acquired in a predictable manner gradually. Motivation, self-esteem, and anxiety are three driving forces which factor gradually in a second language learning and acquisition. He finally ascertains that optimal language acquisition occurs in one way and only one way, where a comprehensible input is ensured in a low anxiety environment with high motivation and self-esteem. Guys, that is the end of my ELT lecture video 1. In my ELT lecture video 2, I will talk about the behaviorist theory of learning. Friends, don't hesitate to contact me if you have any query on ELT. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, comment, and share. To get ELT, TESOL, English Literature, Linguistics, and IELTS update videos, please subscribe biota.bangladesh channel and press the bell icon all. Thank you and love you all for watching this video.